Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of My Wonderful Work History. I know it has been definitely a minute. Definitely didn't forget about this. Just a matter of with the most recent work situation and a few life things, definitely had to at least take a break on one thing, and it just happened to be this. So yeah, we're gonna pick up to where we left off, and once we get to present day, then we'll talk about present day. So yeah, this is episode 5, and pretty much picking up from where episode 4 was. I ended up moving back to Florida, pretty much back to what I have to consider my hometown. And the first couple months back in Florida, it was more of just me, just kind of in my own head, longing away after the whole situation with my mom passing away. And I think like the first 2 months, I was just staying at my brother's place with him and his girlfriend at that time, and it was just a matter of me just getting out of my head slowly. I would end up getting my own place not too far away from my brother, and still just in my head and mind where I really didn't know what I was going to do or what I really wanted to do at that point. I think it took like another month, at least like a month into me being in my own place for the first time, that I finally just decided like I at least had to like build myself back up or move normally and get around people, especially since I was back home, even though I still didn't really talk to anybody when I got back home. Like, really just didn't talk to anybody other than my brother. I would get my first job in Florida, and that would be working at Belk's. So if anybody knows about Belk's, it's a high-end retail store. And the reason why this one is going to be short at the same time, a little bit kind of just built off like the mental state that I was in. So when I originally applied there, it was just to be the person in the back room where people would usually do returns and things like that. Pretty much sit in the back, take phone calls, help with gift wrapping when it's time for those holidays, and kind of like if you're a little bit older, the place that you would go for like layaway, that spot. So I wanted to be somewhere where obviously I still get to interact with people, but still not being forced to like interact with people. And so did the interview. I thought I did well, and pretty much I waited, and then it's like 2 days later, they literally called me to come back, and pretty much they told me that they were offering the position to someone else. And I was like, okay, what's the point of calling me back? That could have been an email or phone call. But they said, just based off my experience, they wanted to offer me another position there. And I'm thinking, all right, are they going to put me on the sales floor or do something else? And they were going to put me as, I'm trying to remember what the position is called. It's something dealing with the stock in the background. And that position is also kind of like the do-all, except being on the sales floor and everything else. So it dealt with stock and dealt with even somewhat being a janitor. And at first, I did want to just turn it down, but it's like, as the time was going and I was slowly just putting myself back together, I was like, I at least need to legitimately start working to make some income and not just burn out with the money that I had. And at least it kind of would still fit somewhat until obviously I got into working in the position where I can just stick to the back and just deal with little to no people. At least what I thought it was going to be like that. So pretty much the first day, it's just like I was overdressed. That's the best way to put it. I thought it would be kind of like with everyone else in the back or on the floor where we have to be dressed up proper and things like that. But it was kind of like, here you get this burgundy polo that makes you stand out, and you can wear pretty much any type of pants you want. So I was like, okay. And the back room in Belks is very concrete, very cold, and it can be, and definitely with my state of mind at that time, was very depressing. Literally, it was just a matter of we would get items that were coming in, and we had to sort them, put them on hangers, and take them out to the floor. We also had to do janitorial things. We had to put up the mannequins and all of that, and it was just like, this was like a everyday situation. And I think what was throwing me off was just how the schedule was set up sometimes. It's like I would work sometimes where I had to do the early morning shift. I had to be there like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd be done around like 2 or 3, which is crazy. Those early morning shifts, it was just a matter of what would definitely cause me to go a little bit stir crazy. I was vacuuming for like an hour, and it wasn't like even a decent vacuum for that time, which would be, this was like early 2014, well, late 2014, early 2015, and so on. And he literally gave us the old school wired vacuum with the actual big bag, and just a vacuum that literally just had small settings on it and could literally go out at any moment. It was taped up and all that, and pretty much we would just go around vacuuming for like the first like 5 to 6:30 in the morning. And even with headphones, I would still hear it, and I was slowly like, that would be like the first cog for me to like slowly like want to get out of there. It was that in the schedule, because it would be like I would work early morning to the afternoon, and sometimes it would be early morning to the afternoon, then come back to work the night, and they would just rotate the schedule like that, and it got to me at some point. And when it came to the people that I had to work with in the back, they were all great people. That's the one thing I was like, there was nobody that was just like, it wasn't a situation where I left the job where it was due to the social aspect or interaction with people. It was just how the work was and where my mental state was at that time. I think there was just one situation or one person where it's just like, this is why I can't stay here for too long. So, for anybody that lives in Ocala, they know that Belks has been open for, I want to say, over 20 years now. That place opened up when I was in possibly like 5th grade or like 6th or 7th grade. So it's been open for a while, still open. One of the guys that I worked with down there, obviously an older guy, pretty much he said, yeah, I've been here from the starting day. I was like, okay. And the thing that was kind of like throwing me off, and again, this is something that I'll carry with me for pretty much every job I would go to after, is he's been there obviously since, at that point I'm supposed to be a senior in college, and he's been there since I was in middle school or elementary school, and he's been in that same position that now I'm working in. And like, even the guy who was our manager was younger than him. Like, that guy was like 2 years older than me at the time. So that was something that would be in the back of my mind, like, okay, it's hard to possibly move up, or maybe it's just this position where they don't really move you up. And so that's like the only thing, at least when it came to my coworkers, where there was anything, like nothing that he did, but it was just like something that would sit with me where, all right, I have to approach this very much like a temp job. Even though it wasn't a temp job, like in the back of my mind, that's when I knew I had to treat this like possibly a temp job. So pretty much, again, just going stir crazy, and with the scheduling and how my mental mindset was, I would slowly just like started feeling like I was losing myself. And then I think the breaking point for me was when I got the job. I want to say it was I want to say it had to be like early October. I was doing it for X amount of months. I think I was only there for like 3 months. And in one of those days where I was early in the morning vacuuming, something I saw just kind of like broke me. And it was like, it broke me for good, but also broke me like emotionally overall. So, obviously grew up here in Ocala. One of our local magazines, for some reason we had it on one of our tables that were by one of the dressing rooms, and I literally saw the mascot for my high school on the front cover. So anyone that knows me, like the small group of people like that knows me in that mascot, it's more of like, that's like the closest thing I can say, like, hey, I have some hand in creating something that has like a long lasting legacy. So in high school, it had to be my junior year, when I was in student council, like the principal came in. It was kind of like, hey, we need something to kind of help bring up school spirit. And everybody was throwing stuff on the wall and things like that. And I said, hey, why don't we get an actual like mascot? And so they put the money together, and then senior year in a pep rally, we see a big mascot walk out, and it's like, oh, I kind of just claimed like, hey, that's because of me. So when I saw that mascot that I saw in high school, literally on the front cover of one of the local magazines, it just like broke me. It was just like, I was thinking like, all right, something that I know kind of like helped me when I was first going into college and things like that, just like motivated me on like having confidence and stuff, like in building something. Seeing it on the front cover of a page of a magazine, and it's just like, I know I'm capable of more. That's what it was. And at the same time, it was just like, I'm thinking back to like when I was in high school, when things were well for me. Family's all good, mom's there and all that, and it's just like that, seeing that cover just like completely broke me in a good and a bad way, pretty much. Pretty much when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I have to get out of here. And so I wouldn't actually like resign until like a couple weeks later after the Christmas rush, because obviously I want to have a big decent check before I left the job. And yeah, what I did was, after the Christmas was done, I got the check, I typed up a resignation letter, and pretty much I didn't even call it, and I just went to the actual area, the back area where I originally applied for, handed it to the person in the back, and left and never went back. So obviously I'm not gonna end the episode on that, but yeah, it was a long 3.5 months, but mostly just because of my mental. So pretty much while I was doing that, the main reason, other than the cover, was due to the fact of the opportunity that I've seen that my brother had got working in education. So originally when I went to college, I wanted to go into teaching. Like even in high school, I was a part of the TA program and all that. So I wanted to teach. I saw that he got a position as a paraprofessional, which is pretty much an assistant teacher. And he told me like, yeah, all you gotta do is just, take this test, pass it. It's very simple, and that'll get your foot in the door into a more stable job and something that I was actually interested in, which is pretty much teaching. And so I was studying before I quit, and quit. Got into the test site and passed the exam, and then just flooded pretty much every school with an opening to try to get my chance to become a parent. So yeah, I would end it on that, like the cliffhanger, but I just feel as though, just due to the short amount of time that I was in those, I think I was just gonna make this into like a 2-job episode again. So that's what I would do. So at first, when I did send out everything, I didn't hear anything for a while. Like, I was just like, I would assume that they would want, somebody to come in and assist, because I know with education it's hard for everybody to want to stay with it, and you would think with so many openings that they would just be willing to let anybody at least do an interview. But like for the first, I want to say 2.5 months, like I didn't get an interview at all. Like it was just like I was just waiting, not hearing anything from any school. I was just like, okay, this is crazy. Like, I know at this time I have my AA degree, but it's just like, I would think that would at least somewhat help me, even though it was like my AA's in liberal arts. It's just like, it's more than a high school diploma. So it's like, I tried somewhat in college. So I thought that would at least put me like in somewhat on everyone's radar, but no, I didn't get anything for a while. So when I finally did get my first interview, it was for a school that I would teach at, which is a little bit northern in the county that I live in, and pretty much it's like somewhat of the woods, but at the same time though it's a place where very small town vibe, and that is Reddick. So Reddick is, I want to say it's like good 25 minutes from where I'm at in Ocala, but I was happy for an opportunity. It's like, hey, I finally got a call, and this was for PE, so that's even easier than being in a classroom and assistant teacher. Got the interview in, did well, got the call back, and I got the job. So I was like, okay, sweet. So get hired for Reddick Collier Elementary School. Happy about it because again, it's close to the career path that I originally went to college for, and it's more stable, better benefits, all that. And on top of that is PE. I know it's like something that some people liked, some people didn't, but teaching it is a lot more fun. At least it was at first. And yeah, with this one, this is a job that definitely would kind of just roll out how everything else would go for me, just as much as Whole Foods. Like Whole Foods was like where I approach everything mentally. Reddick Collier as my position as a PE para or PE tech would just be like the setup for how I would be in with a lot of the other jobs that I would get following after. So I was assistant to a very veteran PE teacher, a woman in her, I want to say mid-50s, high energy, and again with Reddick it's just a matter of there's a lot of kids that come from somewhat impoverished area, but it's more of they're kids that are just happy to be in school and especially like being in PE. So the first couple months that I'm there, getting into the ropes, but it's not too hard with some of the kids, but it's just a matter of who I was coming in after. So the person that was in the position before me, he was there a long time, like to the point where he pretty much were with some of those kids since they were in pre-K. And so like the 5th graders knew him since pre-K, and that would be one of those things where they would have expectations and kind of just hurt at the fact that their guy just up and went to a new job during the middle of the school year, and that kind of hurt them, and they definitely were willing to take some of their frustrations out on me. But I just had to, let them know, hey, I'm here. Obviously, I'm not the last person, but I'm trying to help. And learn with y'all and also try to make PE fun as much as I can. And, some of them bought in. Just took a while for most, best to say. But overall, the first year all the way until maybe the last day was good. Like, again, it was a solid job. The pay was decent for the time, and I was just like content because it was just like, all right, this motivated me to really just step back and at least try to go back to school. Just try to use this as that bump to actually get into teaching. And again, it was fun the first couple months of that's school year, and literally to like the last couple days. And so pretty much what happened with the end part of the school year was this. So how the county was going was just a matter of they were trying to get up with technology a little bit, at least adding it to certain parts of different special areas, and PE is one of them. This would be an issue that would ended up definitely making me want to quit down the line, but it wasn't due to the fact of the use of technology. It was a matter of the equipment and the veteran coach that I had to work under, and mostly just the veteran coach that I had to work under. So the county, they were training us, and they gave us an iPad. We never ended up using the iPad because it just didn't make any sense for us, because we were literally in the woods in the back, and it's like even the Wi-Fi there just wasn't good, so it was like no point in using it. And we were supposed to use the iPad to collect data and do everything to kind of make it easier for us to track how the kids were doing and things like that, and their progress and stuff. We literally never used it other than outside of the one time we used it for the training where we were with all the other PE coaches. And other than that, like, the iPad would either sit in my office drawer or pretty much sit in the other coach's car. Like, we didn't use it. I'm not a Apple person at all, and that's a whole bag of words how not talk about it. But yeah, so the iPad was just collecting dust until it returned it. The way the school year was ending, again, I'm getting the kids to like me and like the way I teach and things like that. I got the fifth graders to buy in, and all the other kids, the whole respecting Coach Alexander. And pretty much, obviously, you're gonna always have those kids that are just a little bit just in a whole different world, but they would at least try when they got into PE with me. Once we got to the end of the school year, it was just a matter of just even with the administration that brought me in, they were all kind of being sent everywhere. So the principal that hired me, she would literally tell us at the end of the year, hey, you're sending me to another school. The lady broke down crying because she had been there 3 years, brought up the grade for the school, and they just told her, hey, you gotta go to another school. And this year, that year, a lot of principals got shifted around, and a lot of new ones got put into different schools and things like that. So it was kind of like a huge shuffle. And that's why one thing about when it comes to moving up in education, at least the admin position, you're kind of just at the mercy of those in higher positions, because some of these principals, they obviously took the opportunity. Some didn't want to move at all, and my principal was one of them that had to get moved. So back to the iPad situation. So after we all kind of get thrown off by the fact that our principal's getting sent to another school, I'm heading back, getting ready to pretty much go home for the summer, and I get approached by the veteran coach. for some reason, she decided to accuse me of stealing the iPad. And that completely threw me off because I didn't have the iPad. The iPad was in the back of her car and was there majority of the time because it got to a point where when we would do the monthly meetings in the middle of the actual school place where all educators had to go for like half days and things like that, I pretty much gave it to her to keep because there was no point because we weren't using it and I didn't want to carry it around everywhere with me. So end of the school year comes and she makes a whole scene trying to accuse me of stealing an iPad. And that completely threw me off. Like, I wouldn't steal anything, let alone something that was pretty much given to us by the state government. Like, one thing that you gotta understand is, like, I really have an issue when it comes to, like, disrespect that can tarnish my name. Like, you're accusing me of stealing something when you have it. And the situation was so bad was because, again, on top of making the scene, she literally got other people involved to try to accuse me also. And I at first I didn't react the way that you would think. Like, I didn't go off, kept my cool, and pretty much told her, like, I don't have it. It's not on me. It's not in my office. None of that. Like, you have it. It's in your car. And didn't say anything. I literally left, went back to Ocala to, do my regular stuff, which was at that time work with the varsity football team that I was recording film for. And this woman, this coach, she literally called me, and I pretty much put it on speaker just so everybody knows, like, hey, I told them what the situation is, and she's going off saying, like, yeah, I think you have it. You need to either find it and bring it to me, or we're gonna have to turn this into a whole bigger situation. I was like, I don't have it. And that was just that. And so pretty much literally like an hour later, she goes and calls me again and says, we found it in your dresser, in your office. And I was like, that's not true, because again, literally cleaned out my whole office. I literally know where everything that was left in my office was. So you didn't find it. You found it in your car. And didn't want to apologize, didn't want to say anything to me. And so pretty much that summer, what happened was I didn't just quit because, again, I knew that the whole switching of the principal and stuff like that, I kind of just leave at that point. But I did go and apply to other jobs over the summer. Literally applied to other schools. And some of the other schools pretty much told me, like, they would have hired me, but due to the fact that the whole school shifting thing and the fact that a lot of them had respect for the assistant principal at the school, who I, to this day, still have respect for, because she helped me out even in the future. At that time, I was kind of annoyed because I didn't flat out tell anybody about the whole accusation of this coach saying that, hey, I stole an iPad. Like, I didn't tell anybody that during these interviews, and I didn't even tell the assistant principal on the way out, or the principal on her way out. Like, I literally just left. Like, so the fact that I couldn't find a new job or a new school to get into during that summer, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go back. Hopefully, maybe at some point when I see her, she'll just apologize and act like it didn't happen. But no, like, after that point, it was just like the disrespect got to an aspect to where I definitely got pushed all the way out to the point that I would end up quitting. And it wasn't just from her. Like, pretty much the fact that I didn't react to her, and I don't even mean like going off or anything like that. pretty much it seemed like that gave the green light to pretty much almost every other teacher almost on that campus to kind of disrespect me. And that would be something that would also play into why I would end up leaving. And when I mean disrespect, I mean it got to a point where I was just like, I'm pretty sure like the majority of them would not say or have some of the attitude they have outside of this campus when it comes to me. Like, it got to the point where I was just like, should I just go into a mode where I just have to actually check these people and be like something that they would really not want to deal with outside of the work situation. And it was just like, I had to remind myself, like, one, at that time, I'm 22. So it's like, 22, young, and I'm a black male, and like I'm one of two on the campus. Like the only other black male on the campus is also a parent, and he's older than me, and he definitely understands some of the situation that I was in also. But they approached him way differently than they approached me, just because he's been there longer. Like I said, so school year starts, and she's just like disrespectful at a whole different level, to where it's just like she feels as though, hey, she has a green light to do and say whatever to me now. And it had definitely had me in a mindset of being more competitive, but I was just like, I had to think of the fact that this is a solid job, I'm trying to get back into school, and if I just quit, I highly doubt that it'd be hard. It would be easier for me to get in this position again, just because when you work for like a semi-government job like education, if you just quit, then obviously that's going to be on your record, where they might think, hey, if he just randomly quit there without legitimate reason, why should we hire him? And so it was getting to a point where I was just like, is this worth it? And it got to that point where it wasn't. And when I say the disrespect was crazy, like it got to the point where it was even happening outside of work. Like, there was one situation where she literally popped up at the place that I was coaching at or filming for at the time, and just dropped off equipment because she was like, hey, and what she did was pop up, drop the equipment off, and pretty much tell me, yeah, I'm going to be out for a week. Here's all the stuff that you're going to need to teach my class. I'm like, this is something that could have been a text or a note that could have been left on the campus. Don't know what she was trying to prove by popping up, but that's where the levels of just disrespect was getting at. And again, it was coming from the other teachers too. When it came to the art and the music teacher, it was just like, it would be situations where, obviously, with our classes being so close in proximity, you know, I would have my students getting ready to leave, and they would see their friends in one of the other classes also getting ready to leave, and, you know, the kids are always going to try to talk to each other, and they're not yelling or anything like that, but the next thing you know, I would have a grown adult teacher trying to yell at me about their kids shouldn't be talking to my kids, or I should be stopping my kids from talking to their kids, even though they're getting ready to go all to go eat lunch together anyway. It was just getting to those levels. There would be meetings, like teacher staff meetings, where sometimes it was optional for us to go, and I would literally hear a word back from other parents were saying like, hey, there's literally a teacher saying he's calling you out by name, just trashing you in the middle of a meeting, and nobody's saying anything. It was getting to that point where you would think like I was just the easy target, or I was just like the worst person working on that campus, when that wasn't the case at all. So, January is the breaking point. And pretty much the main reason why I remember January so much is because it was cold, and this was right around the time that I think Black Panther was coming out. Like, so what happened was, this was what caused my last day. Again, I'm so far just like in the back of my mind trying to figure out how do I make it to May to at least make my resume look better and say like, hey, I at least made it 2 years at the school before I try to just leave. But January was the breaking point. So with Reddick, it's like further up north of where we are. It's not like heading towards Tallahassee, but even being 20 minutes up north of the county that I'm at gets a little bit colder. It's literally 40 and below. And usually what the rule at the time that I was told was, if it's anything below like 40, then you need to have your kids inside to teach. Had my kids inside, it was like 40 degrees, and this was the young group. This was a class of first graders, which again would have been complete neglect if I had a group of first graders out in 40 degree weather just to have them go running or something like that, when I can just have them inside sitting, going over a lesson with no issue. So for some reason, she decided she's taking her class outside, and for some reason she's expecting me to take my class out there also. We didn't talk about that, didn't say anything about it, nothing. So I was like, I'm not doing that just because I'm following the actual protocol that was told to me by her last year. And, you know, I'm in the middle of teaching a lesson, the kids are having fun, and the next thing you know, all we hear is a boom. This woman literally kicks the door open. Like, this is a actual steel door, like any type of school door you've ever seen. This isn't wood or anything like that. She kicks the door open, starts yelling and going off on me in front of a whole class of first graders. The first graders are screaming just because the door got kicked open, and she's literally going off and screaming at me about not having them out there. So, completely unprofessional, and that was the breaking point. So, I was like, okay. I pretty much told all the kids, hey, let's go outside because this is what the coach wants. She's still yelling at me. There's a hill to go down to where the track is and where the basketball courts are. This woman is yelling at me the whole time. I stopped. I turned around and looked at her, and I said enough. I literally turn around. I wait for my kids to finish. PE's done. She's still trying to yell at me. I let the kids go to their teacher. I grabbed my bag. No, I didn't even grab my bag. I literally just walk up to the front office, and I go sit in the assistant principal's office, and pretty much it was like this. I told her, hey, I'm done. Like, I just, at that point, I just pretty much told her, like, what was the situation? What was the situation that happened last year? And she was like, before you tell me anything else, let's actually get the principal. This is the new one who was that was placed into the school. And I told him the whole situation that happened last year, the accusation of the stolen iPad. Told them about the disrespect. And at first, they were just like shocked, especially the assistant principal, because again, she was there last year, and obviously nobody's going to tell her, like, yeah, we accused somebody of stealing, even though it ended up not being the case. Not going to also admit that, you know, unprofessional, disrespectful to the point where you get into a breaking point. And pretty much what they wanted to do at first was, because again, I was doing good. Like, I kids liked me, doing good at the position, all of that, and they didn't want me to just up and leave. And the timing was also really bad because she already told them that she was going to be gone for like a month, due to a back surgery, which again could care less at that point. They were calling to see if, hey, can we switch me with somebody else to a different position to cover P? But due to the fact that we're already in January, they couldn't make it happen. They're literally calling other schools and all this, calling the top people just trying to see if they can make anything happen. And I'm just like, they couldn't do anything. And so they pretty much asked me, is there any way that we can just have y'all sit down and talk and try to break this, make it to where I can at least finish the school year or at least cover until she's gone. I was just like, no. I was like, no. Because at that point, it was just like, I was like at 9.5, where it's just like, I should just be going off, should curse her out, should take this to a whole nother level just because of how long the disrespect has been going. And because, again, at that time, I was young. I was just like, you gotta respect your elders, respect the vets in the job. But after that, it was like, no. Like, I should have took this to a whole nother level, but I didn't. Like, even me just coming here to sit down and talk with y'all is me still not going all the way to 10. Because it's like this, in the back of my mind, I was just like, it would be insane if I decided to go back and during that whole situation where she was yelling and barking at me, if I would have gone off on her, if I would have brought the same energy to her, it would have looked crazy, because it's like, you got your 22-year-old black male, about 5'11", 6 foot, going off on a 57-year-old 5'1" white woman. Like, the optics on that just looks insane. Like, if I would have just went off on her in front of a whole bunch of elementary kids and other teachers. And so it's just like, I had enough sense to keep that in mind also. And it was just like, the assistant principal, they were just like, is there anything that we can possibly do to get? And I was like, at that point, if we can't move me into a different position where I don't have to deal with her, then I have to leave today. And so they literally print out some papers, I signed off, and I was gone that day. It was just like that. Like, they didn't want me to leave, especially after hearing what the actual situation was. But it was just like, if the only thing y'all can offer me is, hey, I just have to deal with it a little bit longer. Because even though she would have been gone for a month, that doesn't mean anything. Again, she's already shown her hand by willing to actually approach me outside of the job. So it's like, nah, like, there's no way I can do it at all. So I was hurt, because again, that was the job that I actually wanted. It was a job that I felt was going to be the stepping stone for me to finally get in the career that I originally went to school for. I was trying to do it since high school, was trying to get into education to become a teacher. Even though originally it wasn't PE at all, it was just a matter of, I'm in education. That's what I want to be a part of as a teacher. And that experience alone was just like the worst possible entrance to being into the education system. And so when I left, I was hurt. Like, the only reason why I didn't just go home and just close myself in was because I had to help out with a basketball game that same day. And it's like, my brother and the players, they're looking at me, and I'm not, as usual, I'm able to hold it in so nobody knows what's really going on. I'm hurt. Because one, I felt as though I should have went off. I should have said something. I shouldn't have felt like I let her win, because either me staying there for her to get her, situation to go where she can just say whatever to me was a win for her. Me quitting is also making me win for her. And I just felt like I was just heated. My emotions were just everywhere, but I was just I took the high road when I really didn't want to at all. So, yeah. So it would be a good, I want to say 2 years before I'd actually get back into the education system. It was definitely, that was like a bad first experience for me. I'll just say, it got my foot in the door and at least like gave me a few connections and also just had that on my resume. So when I did get back in education, or at least applied for it, they saw that. And again, like I said earlier, the assistant principal, she definitely helped me out when I got back into it, just because of the reference that I didn't even like have her, but somebody contacted her, let her know how I was, what the situation was, and that would help me with the education position I would get later on down the line. But before I got to that, due to my abrupt quitting, I would have to deal with a couple jobs that weren't the best. And I'll leave that for the next episode. So, definitely glad to be able to do this again, get a little bit of info out on myself, get to vent a little bit also. Hopefully y'all enjoy. Hopefully y'all will come back to see the next couple episodes. And yeah.